Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another Brew View interview. We are here at Barrel of Monks with Kevin. Kevin, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely, we're so glad to be here. So Kevin, tell me a little bit about Barrel of Monks. How did you guys get started?
Well, Barrel of Monks Brewing is about 5 years old. Actually, we're over 5 years old. We celebrated our anniversary a couple months ago, our 5-year anniversary. And we make Belgian Style ales. We make Belgian beer. We don't make American IPAs. We don't make London Porters. We make Belgians. And we've been doing this. It was our philosophy from the beginning to try to make the best Belgian ales we could in the States. And listen, there's tons of great breweries like us and preceded us by many years in places like Ommegang and Allagash throughout the country. But our goal was to do justice to these styles by using European malts and hops, Belgian ale yeast, because we think that these beers are some of the most timeless, the most layered, the most complex, and the most versatile in the entire beer category. And I also believe that specification in the beer industry is really important. Is when you try to focus on one thing, you can probably do it pretty well if you give it the attention to detail necessary.
All right. So tell me about how you guys got started.
So I have 3 partners in the brewery. There's 4 of us. My name, obviously Kevin Abbot, but we have Keith DeLoach, Matt Sadie, and Bill McPhee. And the 3 of them have been friends for a long time. I came along later on in this, but the 3 of them were beer fanatics in the in the early stages of the craft beer boom down here in Florida, when we would affectionately call it a wasteland, when there was nothing there to drink. And they were getting boxes shipped from all over the country and all over the world to get their hands on Chimay and these great beers from all over the world that we now take for granted. So they fell in love with those beers. They decided that, well, maybe we want to make beer ourselves. They traveled to Belgium and met with brewers, met with people that loved these styles and really knew this, and they became homebrewers. And it was a lot of years after that. It was a long time coming, but bought a brew system. You guys saw it when you were coming up. That was the original homebrew system there. Put it on the back patio of Bill McPhee's house, and eventually, almost 10 years later, this brewery actually was put together and ready to rock.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So you just mentioned your beer setup. I know you have your one that you guys started with a long time ago. So tell me a little bit about that one, and then tell me a lot about the one you've got now.
Our original brew setup it's a nice Brew Magic system. We're able to make about 10 gallons. I believe Bill will kill me if he's watching this. Bill, I'm sorry. I believe we're able to make about 10 gallons of beer at a time on this. The one thing I want to mention about Bill, because Bill I started the brewery as the head brewer. Bill was the brewmaster, because it was Bill's recipes that was my job to take and scale up.
All right, so let's get that vocabulary. So the brewmaster.
So this is the way we looked at it. So Bill McPhee, Matt, and Keith were making these batches on their patio for years and years, refining them, tweaking a yeast temperature, tweaking a fermentation profile, tweaking the malt bill from this Pilsner to that Pilsner, what have you. And they came up with these several recipes that we are brewing right now today. My job as an experienced brewer at another brewery was to take these and say, well, I need to make them on a commercial level, not a homebrew level. So I know some of the tricks of the trade to make that happen. So my job was to kind of scale those up and make those kind of commercial dreams a reality.
Gotcha.
So I started as the head brewer here. I'm now director of operations. I don't put on my brewing boots anymore. Those guys right down there are doing that now.
So Kevin, tell me about your big gigantic brew setup you have downstairs.
So we, as we started on that 10-gallon brewing system and on the back patio, we've now, thankfully, we don't have to work as hard. We scaled up a little bit. We have a 20-barrel brew house, and our 20-barrel brew house is an oversized 20, so it allows us to brew full batches of high-gravity beers that are on that 12% alcohol level. And then we've got a lot of fermentation space. A brewery is not defined by its brew house. A brewery is defined by its fermentation space, because you can have a 15-barrel brew house and you can brew 10,000 barrels a year if you want. You just got to brew a lot. And you got to have a lot of tanks to put that beer in. So we've got a couple 80-barrel fermenters, we have a couple 40-barrel fermenters, and 6 20s. And we did about 2,000 barrels of production last year. We are on pace to do a little bit more than that this year until, all hell broke loose. But
heard about that.
Yeah. You got the memo?
Yeah, I did. I saw it on Facebook.
Good. So we have a 20-barrel brew system. It's a pretty advanced system. We use a PLC screen. We have all air-controlled valves. We put a lot of care into the brewing system here, into the lab, because we felt like it would give our brewers more time to focus on the minute, small things that are really necessary to make great beer.
So how many brewers do you have on staff?
So right now we have 3 staff in the brewery altogether. We have Tim Buds, who is our head brewer. We have Ralph and we have Zach, who are our cellarmen, but they have a kind of jack of all trades kind of thing going on. Ralph is really kind of the assistant brewer and works in the cellar. Zach kind of runs the bottling line, but he's learning how to brew right now. So we have 3 people that are definitely not interchangeable necessarily, but we're working towards that kind of thing.
Gotcha. So tell me a little bit about how you came up with your name, Barrel of Monks.
Well, what I will tell you is that coming up with the name Barrel of Monks sounded really, really cute in the beginning. Then every time I get a call about Barrel of Monks Brewing...
I didn't think that.
Well, thank you. So obviously, Barrel of Monks is a game from my childhood, from my partner's childhood.
Thing. Okay.
And, Monks... Belgian beer brewed by monks, the Trappist monks.
That I get.
Barrels are associated with beer. We have a large barrel program, so we felt that it worked on several levels. Of course, I do get those random emails or people trying to sell me something very enthusiastic to sell something to Barrel of Monks Brewing, and I usually say, that sounds like a really good idea. If I ever find a brewery called that, I'll let them know you're looking for somebody.
Salespeople, do your research, or you'll look like an asshole. Yeah.
Barrel of Monks Brewing.
I like it.
But that's where it came from. Barrel program, monks.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What is your bestseller?
Wizard Wit. The Wizard Wit is our flagship. It's, depending on the month, 75 to 80% of our production. It's the straw that serves the drink. It's the thing that keeps the lights on. We do it in package. We do it on draft. It's the first batch of beer ever brewed at Barrel of Monks Brewing. It is what we knew it would be the most important. It was the first beer we put into a 6-pack, yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, Kevin, what is your favorite beer to drink and make here at Barrel of Monks?
That's a loaded question.
Okay.
Because, you have the aspect of the fact that I had my hands in making, for the first many years of this brewery, making each batch myself, right? Okay. So they're like my children. It's hard to pick between them. And then you also have the fact that sometimes you're in the mood for a dark Belgian strong, and sometimes you're in the mood for a more quaffable Belgian single. But I think my favorite beer that we brew is the lightest, simplest beer that we brew. I've always said, if you want to know the worth of a brewery, walk in, order the lightest, simplest beer they have on the menu, and you will know if they know how to brew. Because it's free from off flavors like DMS and diacetyl, if it's clean, if it's refreshing, if it still tastes like a beer because there's a malt character profile, a hop profile to it, then these guys know what's going on, and then they know how to make a great stout. They know how to make a great brown ale because they have the bases down, the fundamentals. So me, Single in the Sun. It's the lightest beer we do, 4.5%. If you're at my house, that's the one that I always have a 6-pack of in the fridge, maybe even a case. And that's my favorite beer because I'm most proud of the fact that beer drinks so well, is so well balanced, and has so much to offer when it's such a simple beer.
Excellent. So you mentioned that you do have your beers available in 6-packs or a case, if you will. So clearly, I know there are some very crazy laws in Florida about distribution. Explain to me how you guys handle that here.
So we cover the entire state of Florida. Our footprint is the entire state of Florida. We have distribution in grocery stores to small mom and pop bars to large chains all over the place. We have several different distributors to make that happen. So, in Florida, you have to sell to a distributor. It's a 3-tier system. So they sell to the distributor and they have to sell to a bar, a restaurant, or a retail outlet. And, it is what it is. We've been doing it for as long as we've been open, and our distribution partners are great.
Yeah.
We work very well with them. I don't want to own a truck and have someone jump in there and throw 4 kegs in the back and drive to someone else's place.
Interesting.
Listen, if limited self-distribution, a lot of people would really like to have that right now. We're to the point where it wouldn't do a lot of good for us.
Okay, so you're happy with things.
Yeah, there's a contentious relationship that's just kind of in the industry between distributors and breweries, and I understand that. I understand the frustration. I've had frustrations in the past with different people, some people we're not working with anymore, but right now we have a great relationship. They pick up our beer, we understand they have a business to run, and we do too.
Interesting. So Barrel of Monks, right now in your tap house, you guys just serve beer. A lot of times when breweries have that type of business model, they choose to have a revolving food truck. And I have noticed that Barrel of Monks does something a little different.
We do.
Explain that to me.
So, like you said, revolving food trucks, new food options all the time, and a lot of that is out of necessity, is you got to have someone in there all the time. We want to have a food option for people to come to Barrel of Monks and make it a night, not just swing by for a beer, then head down to the store to grab, a bite to eat. So you want to have a food option available. Cheffery Eats, who is our current food partner, was one of the first people we worked with when we opened the doors. I mean,
as a food truck operator.
As a food truck. They're one of the first people we worked with, one of the people we worked with the best early on, that provided really, really good food, was the most reliable, showed up on time.
Food. I follow him on Instagram. He's awesome.
There you
Jeffrey,
go.
right?
Jeff is Jeff is he's a mad scientist. He does a lot of really cool stuff. So he was with us from the beginning. He was reliable. He showed up on time, and he provided really, really good food. So as we were evolving, we do beer dinners all the time. We're very focused on beer and food pairing.
Okay.
I worked as a wine steward for 7 years before I got into the beer industry professionally, and I really want to focus on good beer and good food, so we do a lot of beer and food pairings. And just working with Jeff over the last couple years, we noticed that he could make a great burger, and he could make the most intricate 5-star dining kind of experience
from
for
a
us
truck.
as well. From a truck, yeah.
Pretty impressive.
And we just felt like it would be a good fit to have someone out there all the time. You can count on what you're going to get. You know the menu, and you can say, you know what? I love that burger. I love those wings. I love that flatbread from Cheffery Eats. I know I'm going to get that when I go in tomorrow. And it was tough not to work with the people we were working with before,
right?
And because some of them are great. But we felt it was the overall best business decision for us to have some consistency there, to have a partner to work with, and also to be able to be proud to say that this is the food that we're going to offer you guys.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So you guys are here in Boca. As you know, you can come here, you can get great beer, you can get great Cheffery Eats. Kevin, how did you find this particular location?
I was not involved in the finding.
Okay.
So I was working for another brewery before this. My partners were... They all came together many years before, but I met them through the Boca Beer Lovers later on.
Okay.
And
this was already in play, trying to create this brewery.
I knew this was going on, and there was an understanding that when a position was available, I'd be offered a position as a brewer and as a partner. But they were working on this. This brewery took conservatively 4 years to put together.
Wow.
So I wasn't involved in finding the spot, basically. But I can tell you this. All 3 of my partners live in Boca.
Okay.
All 3 of them work in Boca.
Okay.
I don't think they wanted to travel that far from their houses. And in general, they know the area. We also knew that we were making Belgian beer. And I've got beers down there that are 12% alcohol that spent a year in barrel.
Okay.
We wanted people to understand that we were making I shudder to say higher end beer because that's not really necessarily fair, but a beer that you had to put a little more thought into, and maybe spend a little bit more money for. And we thought that Boca worked for that.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
I think those things came together to make it a necessity to be in Boca Raton. And at that time, there was no production breweries in Boca. Funky Buddha, which was still around as the lounge, was a brew pub essentially, and more of an entertainment venue and a small batch brewery.
Why did you guys, as opposed to a retail location, choose an industrial park?
It was a necessity. It was easier to get the zoning to be changed to say we have to produce, because we have to make beer, right? And we're a production facility. We have to make a lot of beer in 10,000 square feet. It was easier to get the laws or the zoning changed so that we could sell beer on premises in a tap room than to go the other way around.
Okay.
And also, the real estate's cheaper. I mean, if we would have had the same spot in Meisner, well, we couldn't afford it. So we had to go into an industrial area. And yeah, listen, Boca's a little more expensive. We knew that going in, but we ended up in a gorgeous spot. We have plenty of space. I mean, you wouldn't know it to hear people, talking down there while they need more space and things are running out of stuff. But we ended up having 10,000 square feet, enough room for a nice little tap room.
Second and first floor is a total of 10,000.
Yes, everything combined: the offices, the private event space, and the production facility, and then the tasting room and barrel aging room down there. But yeah, it was just what we had to do. Listen, we would have loved to have a spot in Meisner or a spot on a major
on Federal Highway.
Yeah, it would have been great, but we just, for what we wanted to do production wise, it just was not in the cards.
I understand.
So this just made more sense for us.
Fantastic. So you've told us that you're in Boca, but be a little bit more specific. How can we find you physically, virtually, all that good stuff?
If you search Barrel of Monks Brewing on
Not
Google,
Barrel of Monkeys.
Not Barrel of Monkeys. Please don't search. Actually, search Barrel of Monkeys. You'll find a lovely game.
Who knows?
But if you search Barrel of Monks Brewing on Google, you'll find all of our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter, all those kind of things. We're on Rogers Circle. We're between Clipmore and Congress Road. We're on Congress Road, or on Clipmore Road between Congress and Military. I killed that one. We're on Clipmore Road between Congress and Military on a little kind of offshoot called Rogers Circle. And
look for the big Jeffrey Eats
yes,
truck.
You can see the truck out there. But also, if you're on Rogers Circle's a big U. We're in the center of that U. We're in the Penn, Florida building. And the Jeffrey Eats trucks is a dead giveaway for us. But yeah, we've got a gorgeous little tap room. Right now, we are closed Mondays.
Okay.
But we normally open 7 days a week. Right now, it's Tuesday through Sunday. We open at 4 p.m. on the weekdays and noon on the weekends. And we have all of our beers on draft, including our sister brewery, Odd Breed Wild Ales, who I believe you had a nice little chat with recently.
Yes.
And
shout out to Matt.
To Matt Manthe, brewing genius. And we also have a limited wine selection. We have Chef Reed's food truck. We have to-go package options and things like that.
So now I know we're in a crazy time. We're recording this interview in July of 2020. So anyone who looks back would know that this is the time of COVID. Mm-hmm. As a business owner, as an operator, tell me, what lessons have you learned? What things did you never imagine 6 months ago?
Well, can we sit down for 3 hours to talk about this? Because it's everything. It's everything. I think one of the things that I've learned the most is to kind of be as lean as possible.
Okay.
And you can't count on next week or next month. One of the things with all of our partners, and I'm talking about people we're buying stuff from or we're selling stuff to, is that we've had to have the conversation going, this is not week to week, month to month. This is day to day.
Wow.
Of us understanding what we're going to be able to do, what we're going to be able to accomplish, what we can sell you, what you want from us, whatever, what have you. So just kind of being lean and smart about what you're doing. Thankfully, we're already kind of in that process.
Yeah.
I'm a crazy person for spreadsheets, so I got a lot of stuff laid out. But a lot of people got into this business for the passion of it, and that's great. But being able to mind your books and make sure that when you get into this, you've got an understanding of where things are going in the next 6 months to a year and having some good projections, I think were always a great idea, but now more so are just going to be just a must. You've got to know.
It's great advice.
Yeah, you just got to know where things are going and where you're planning to move your beer. Because right now we're a statewide brewery, and we saw our distribution sales as far as kegs go from 100 to 25.
Really?
Right? Just scaled back that much. Package sales have gone up, but
sure,
the profit margins on those are much smaller.
Right.
So a lot of our pie evaporated very, very quickly.
Wow.
So if we don't have our tasting room to keep us afloat, thankfully we have Chef Reed's as a partner, so we can keep our the food trucks there, so we can keep our tasting room open. And you can't predict the next big thing and what it's going to be, but
No, clearly not.
Yeah, because we didn't see this coming.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, this was not in my spreadsheet projection numbers for 2020.
No,
I am
no.
not an oracle. I
Right.
did not predict this. But having a little bit like built in there is really, really important.
I agree. That's great advice for any business, especially a brewery. Any final words? Anything you'd like to share?
You know, I just hope that people out there, and once again, especially given the context of the time we're sitting down for this, just anyone who's willing to go out there and support their local breweries, their local businesses, thank you. It's wonderful to see the support that we've had, and I really encourage you to all continue to do that. And then after this time, continue to do that, because we're employing people locally. We're putting a lot of care and effort into what we try to do, and I have no desire to make anything negative about the mass marketed larger breweries.
Okay.
They do what they do really, really well, but we're trying to do something special, unique, and interesting. And a lot of us in the state and a lot of us in the craft beer industry are doing a great job of it.
That's awesome. All right. Well, cheers. Thank you so much, Kevin. We appreciate it.
And more of an entertainment venue and a small batch brewery. And
Margie girl.
Marge.
Can you hear that? Is it loud? Okay.